So this is something I wanted to do for quite some time, and that is to compare a so-called modern Linux distribution, in this case Fedora, to classic Macintosh OS. So on the left-hand side here we have macOS 8.1 from 1997, and on the right-hand side we have Fedora 40. Now let's do some tasks. For example, let's just try to open a text editor. Now on the Mac, to me that is the most natural thing, because just looking at the desktop, I have nice icons here on the desktop for my hard disk Macintosh HD and for the trash. So if I want to open anything that is on the Macintosh HD, I just double click it and here I can see what's on the hard disk. For example, if I look at my applications, then there, sure enough, I have simple text which I can launch. That was very easy. This is just the way how my brain works. I have my different storage devices, for example the hard disk, and I want to see what's on that, and I want to be able to open that. For me that's simple. Now contrast this with Fedora, and I don't want to pick on Fedora specifically, but that's a rather unfortunate trend that I'm observing across Linux distributions and desktop environments basically across the board, which is they seem to be concerned with making stuff what they think is easy, but in the process making even the most simple aspects complicated as hell. And my suspicion is that that has to do with the fact that now we have developers who have not grown up with the desktop metaphor, the left-hand side, which is really easy, but these kids essentially grew up with mobile phones and now want to use mobile paradigms on desktop computers, which I think really complicates things a lot. So, just to show what I mean by that is, on the right-hand side, where do I even see my hard disk? Where is even a way to begin looking at what's on my computer? I mean, there is this strange icon, a line with a dot that doesn't tell me anything. It has no name. Even if I hover the mouse over it, it doesn't show anything. Then where the menu bar normally goes, it's just black. It has no commands, right? There is the date, well, fine. And then there's a couple of icons here, but it doesn't seem like I can look at my hard disk in this way. Now, looking at the global menu bar, this is really one of the best aspects of a classic desktop operating system, where just by quickly looking at the menu, you immediately get a natural understanding of the commands available to you, what an application can do. You can grasp this within just seconds. Now here on the right hand side, all the space is just wasted. In the middle there is a giant calendar thing. When you click on it, you get something that takes up half of the screen. What a waste of space, with notifications. Something, by the way, the Mac on the left hand side doesn't even need. There is no concept of notifications, which is awesome. No nag screens notifying you all the time. It's just out of the way. And here on the right hand side they reserved the best spot on the screen here for just showing the time and no menus. So again, now where's my hard disk? How can I see which programs are available on the hard disk to me? So well, let's look at this strange icon. I click on it, then I get a black screen with the screen background in the middle. Type to search. I don't want to search, I just want to open my hard disk and I guess look at what's on it. So yeah, here are some applications completely random. It's probably Firefox calendar files. Okay, files sounds interesting, so let's have a look at files. Takes quite a while, and yeah, there is a file browser. It goes to home by default, but now let's look at really the hard disk. So it's probably the 2.1 GB volume. What? Authentication required? No, that can't be it. So maybe that's because I'm running from a live CD. That might be possible, but really it shouldn't be so complicated just to look at your own hard disk. So I happen to know that by going here to slash like this, probably you can see, you can see now the contents of the hard disk. So if you compare just the sheer size of the icons to what we have on the Mac, these icons are, what, 4 times as large, take up way too much space. And now, where's applications, right? I mean, on the Mac, you just have Macintosh HD, and then you have applications, and there they are. And here on this Linux thing, yeah, well, I happen to know, but who knows stuff like that, that you have to look at USR bin. And then it's showing a lot of, let's say, binaries, which are not all, or not all of them are really graphical user applications, GUI applications. Also, they have no icons. So this is a giant listing here of, well, some are usable applications that you can double click, but not all are. So really, that is why people on Linux always seem to be concerned about having launchers. You don't need that on the Mac because, as I showed you, you can just open a folder and then you see the applications with proper icons. Why is it so hard for the Linux desktops to just have proper application icons on the application files themselves without needing a special launcher or needing stuff like desktop files and icon files that are separate from the application? I mean, on the Mac, you can just look at this. Let's go to info. It's a Mac application, 140 kilobytes on disk. And of course, it has an application icon. And of course, I see metadata like the version and stuff. If I do the same here, well, it doesn't have all of that, right? I don't see who programmed this. There is no copyright information. There is not even a version information. The icon is just generic. It's not the proper application icon. So that's what I mean when I say the Mac back in the 80s was way more advanced than what we have still today on the so-called Linux desktop. And things seem not to be improving. In fact, you could make the point that things are getting more complicated all the time, and even the most simple aspects are not fixed yet. So let's go back to the original task of opening a text editor, which on the Mac just took me really seconds. But here on Linux, it's really complicated. So let's see. Let's go to that icon here again. And well, I don't know, why is there this black frame? Why is my desktop now smaller all of a sudden? I didn't find the editor here under files, so maybe I have to continue to search. Show apps. Okay, so a completely nondescript symbol with 9 dots, whatever that is supposed to be. So I'm really wondering who makes that stuff up. I mean, on the Mac you have something that clearly looks like a hard disk, and it says Macintosh hard disk, and if you open it, you see your files and applications and folders. Here on this Linux desktop, you see an icon with a line and a dot. No clue what that's supposed to be. And in there, you see an icon with 9 dots, whatever that's supposed to be, completely non-relating to anything known from real life. It's completely made up. So if you go there, then now we start to see some applications. First of all, yeah, they all seem to have no proper names, just generic. I mean, we have a text editor, but what is it called? What is the text editor? I mean, here on the Mac, it's really easy. I can look in applications, and it will show me how the name of the application is, namely simple text, right? And can also see this here in the about screen. But here it just says text editor. So anyhow, I assume that's the text editor I want to open, but I don't even see where it is. Is it on the Linux HD, on the hard disk, or is it on a floppy disk, or on a network drive, or on a CD-ROM? No clue. Yeah, it is just in a list of applications, and this list is apparently coming out of the blue, out of nowhere. It has no location, it has no path, and stuff like that always drives me crazy when I don't know exactly where a file on my disk actually is. And it's just showing some icon out of the blue. I don't like that. I always want to see in my file manager where something is. Everything needs to have one location. So anyway, let's open the text editor. Now, what we can notice right away is that on the Mac, everything is very efficient. The menu bar contains all the menu items. With just one swipe, I see immediately what functionality is available to me. Here on the Linux desktop, even though there is even more wasted space at the top of the screen, you can't really see what commands are available to you. Now let's just open something. On the Mac, very easy, file open, as it has been for decades. Here on this Linux thing, there is not even a file menu. I mean, the file menu literally has been there since the early 80s. And now they think it's a clever idea to integrate open into the title bar of the window. I mean, no. Open is supposed to be in the file menu, has been there for decades. It's ingrained in our brains. It belongs in the file menu. So anyway, let's click on open in the hope that there would come up an open dialog. It doesn't. It says no recent documents. Did I ask you for recent documents or what? I just want the file open dialog, right? And I also don't want to search something. Just show me the file open dialog. So where is it? So maybe I have to click this icon here. Open new document. Maybe that's it. Oh, right. Now we have the file open dialog. That was really way more complicated than it has to be. Also, just notice how everything is approximately 4 times as big as on the Mac. And that's probably because they think that nowadays you operate desktop computers with fingers or something. But on the left-hand side, it's way more efficient, right? It only takes 1/4 of the space. Now, the file open dialog also, look at how they reshuffled the buttons. Forever, the open button has been on the lower right-hand side, where normally a sentence ends when you read across some text. It's always on the bottom right-hand side where you end. And that's where the default button always has to go. But then here on the Linux desktop, no, they put it in the title bar. I mean, they totally mixed up the elements. This title bar is not supposed to contain any buttons other than maybe a close button or something like that. But they put open here in the title bar. Totally crazy. Anyhow, let's cancel out of this here. So again, to the point of the missing menus. Where is, for example, the edit menu where I could copy something? So on the Mac, it's very easy. I can just write some text and then go to edit, copy, and then edit, paste. Been like that again since the early 80s. Now on this Linux desktop, not so easy. I can type, I can select, and now what? The menu bar is completely empty and useless. It's just wasted space. I don't want to open something. Plus, tab. I don't want a tab. This is the title. Then we have here view options. I don't want to view options. I want to copy something. Main menu. Okay, so the most important thing, the main menu is literally hidden away in a hamburger menu. Hamburger menus being kind of a miscellaneous, random, everything that didn't fit in the user interface, catch it all. But where is my edit menu? Well, let's have a look here. So what's that now? It's a combination of icons in a menu. So at least it looks like copy. No, it doesn't have copy. It has new window, save as. Okay, that's kind of the file menu. And then it has some items from the edit menu, but find, replace, print, document properties. It's all mixed up. I mean, since when is print under find, replace? I mean, these menus, they are not random. We know since decades what is in the file menu supposed to be in the file menu and what is supposed to be in the edit menu and so on. But here on the Linux desktop, they are just all mixing it up as if it was completely random. Even help is in here and about. It's all just in one menu. And the most important stuff like copy and paste doesn't exist at all. I mean, can anyone even think of or explain what they were thinking, hiding arguably the most important commands, making them inaccessible? I just don't get this. Way too complicated. Now let's close this. Oh, it asks me whether I want to save. So see, it's also inconsistent because, as I said before, the default action should always be on the bottom right. And in this case, it actually is. So remember that open dialog where they put stuff in the title bar, and here they don't. So it's really strange. So let's discard. Let's have a look at how file management works. One key concept of early Macintosh operating systems, and something that really got lost and no one seems to really get, is the principle of direct manipulation of objects. And with that goes the idea of a spatial navigation. That means that every object has one location on the screen, pixel coordinates, and has just one location. As a matter of fact, the Macintosh HD just exists here in this exact location, and no matter how often I double click it, it will always open the same window. When I open and close windows, notice those nice animations showing what's going on, that this is being opened here. Now on the Linux system, let me get to that again. It seems like it's doing a similar thing, but it actually doesn't do it. It seems like we have here also folders with icons on them, but notice how on the Mac there are very specific icons on the folders, for example for README files or for utilities or stuff like that. And as a matter of fact, it's very easy to edit those. You just go to File Info and you can click here and you can copy this picture and you can, for example, paste it into another folder like I'm doing here, if it was working. Why is it not working? I don't know, but normally it works. So that's not possible on Linux, at least not easily. Properties. Oh, actually, maybe it is. Looks like they have improved it a little bit. Okay, good. It's good when things improve. I always like when things improve. On the Mac, you can just copy and paste, though, and on Linux, you need to have a file. I think copy and pasting is better. But anyway, that's really a minor point. Now, let's have a look at how file organization works. First of all, this insane size is driving me totally nuts, so I need to get it smaller. How can I get this smaller? Properties? No. Just want it smaller. Okay, so by holding down Control and using the scroll bar on my mouse, but that was really more a guess than anything, I can get this smaller. No idea how people are supposed to know or discover that. I just happen to be a really advanced power user, I would say, coming from Windows. This is why I thought that maybe that would be worth a try, but I don't know where it's in the menu. Also note how the menu is now on the left hand side, the hamburger menu. It was on the right hand side just before, so completely inconsistent. Also in here they seem to have undo and redo, which didn't exist in the text editor, whereas on the Mac, no matter what application you are in, those commands are always in the edit menu. No one would look for undo or something like that in File or any other menu. Anyhow, to one of my main points about spatial navigation. What happens if I nicely arrange what I have here? For example, well, desktop? The desktop shouldn't be a folder because the desktop is, well, the desktop. There shouldn't be a folder called desktop. That feels totally wrong to me. What's even in here? Folder is empty. Why does it say folder is empty? It's obvious that it's empty if there's nothing in it. But anyhow, if we create a new file here, and I don't know how that works here. Yeah, anyhow, what I want to show is if I arrange things nicely here, it It doesn't work? I mean, it's quite obvious that a window should be possible to have its stuff arranged in a way that makes sense. So for example, the system folder is something I usually don't mess a lot, so it goes to the bottom, and assistants I never use, so it goes here. Apple Extras also not so often used. Applications at the very top because I use them every day. And similar for utilities and internet. And maybe the README goes, well, here in the middle. Now I can arrange all of this nicely. Clean up. So it gets all aligned on a grid, and I can adjust the window size nicely, and I can position the window, let's say, here. And it will stay like this when I close the window and open the window again. See how stuff just stays where I've put it? That is essential because that really is giving every object its location, so you know exactly where it is. Whereas here on Linux, if I move something, it jumps back to its original location as if I couldn't even arrange stuff. How crazy is that? And yeah, desktop, I don't know. Documents, okay, is empty. There's also this back and forth like it was a web browser. No, a file manager is not a web browser. When you open something, it should open, right? If I open this window, of course it opens. Yeah. Here, it just changes what is inside the same window. That also implies that every folder has the same size of its window, which is not true. As you can clearly see, my applications window has a totally different size and shape than my Macintosh HD window. So this also gets totally lost here on the Linux desktop. I think the Linux desktop even to this day doesn't even save the window size and pixel location on the screen. And it seems to be completely incapable of remembering where I have put stuff in a folder. I mean, the pixel coordinates of each item. So that seems totally backward to me. I don't know why for decades and decades people are still not getting it, how this should work on a desktop system. I could go on and on for hours and hours on that stuff. It's really that bad. So if you look at how folders are used on the Mac, the order of stuff usually isn't just random. Someone has thought about putting the README first and the application icon second. Yeah, there are CD-ROMs carefully arranged where the icons are nicely laid out in windows, and it's all very visual. Unlike this Linux thing where it just shows stuff like it was a kind of a list or something, right? So it's not even close. But then the worst thing is how you handle applications. On the Mac, it's really, really easy. For example, I have a folder called Internet here, which well contains some internet-related applications. Now here on this Linux thing, I guess they just dump everything in USR bin, this giant directory that I had shown in the beginning with not even a way of putting applications in folders, of organizing anything. And then managing applications is you need special package managers and stuff like Flatpak and whatnot, which is all not intuitive because it's not built into the file manager. I will show you how this works on the Mac. Here, for example, if I have an application, let's say Internet Explorer, I just have a folder where the Internet Explorer program and its auxiliary files lives. And I can just take that folder and put it wherever I want, for example, on my desktop or in my applications folder. It's totally up to me where I put this stuff and how I organize it. And if I decide that I don't want Internet Explorer at all anymore, guess what? I just take this folder, put it into the trash, and empty the trash. Done. Now on this Linux thing, well, what would even be the equivalent? We would probably have to go here and then to software or something. Where do we have it? Is it software? Yeah, software. Let's say I want to uninstall Firefox. It takes a lot of time. I mean, you see, it's even slower than an emulated Macintosh. So here we go. Then you have this repository stuff, which is all complicated, so I ignore it. And then you just have ... here. Have to wait some more. What is this? Is that supposed to be good? I mean, you have seen how quick I was able to delete a program on the Mac in comparison here. And this is just showing me ... whatever. Let's search here. Can I search for Firefox? Firefox. It's so slow. And that's not because I'm running on a too slow machine or anything. Okay, what's that now? Firefox? Okay, let's have a look. Loading app details. Again, slow as molasses. Notice how the Mac is way more elegant because everything happens in the Finder, which is the file manager or the desktop. The Mac doesn't need a special application there for loading app details and crap. But on Linux, you apparently need this special application. Now it says install here. No, I don't want to install. I actually want to delete it. That's not even possible, it seems like. You can only install. Yeah, whatever. It's not possible to delete Firefox. So I'm just speechless as how the simplest tasks that worked very easily on the Mac decades ago are so crazy, complicated and slow on Linux to this date. I would only hope that the people working on Linux desktops would take something like classic macOS 8 or macOS 10.4 or something like that and just use that for a couple of months to see that things can be much, much, much simpler and more straightforward by acting directly upon the files and folders and objects right on the desktop without relying on having special applications for everything. So again, I could go on and on for hours here, but I hope that this is already useful as a small overview about why I still think that the early classic Macintosh from the 80s and 90s is still way ahead in terms of usability compared to what's called today's modern Linux desktops. As a matter of fact, I think that the so-called modern Linux desktops are going backwards. Everything becomes more complicated all the time, less direct interaction with the file system. They're trying to hide how stuff actually works. You have no clue where on your hard disk your application is. You have no way of just moving it to the trash. Likewise for installing applications, it's equally easy with the Mac. You just insert the disk, copy across the application, done. On Linux you have to deal with repositories and Flatpak and stuff. That's all way too complicated. So just think about it. I really hope that someone creates one day a simple operating system again that basically lets you live in the desktop, in the file manager, and completely embraces the file system as a friend of the user that should be represented friendly with nice icons, remembering pixel exact locations of every icon, remembering the size of every window, and yeah, just bring that experience onto the Linux kernel. I hope that someday this will happen. That's it for today. Goodbye.